Hello and good evening. I am Alphonso McGriff III, and this is Alphonso Speaks, and I use this platform to share information about, one second. I use this platform to share information about the conscious conversation experience. The conscious conversation experience. One of the things I want to do tonight before I get started is send out an invitation. Um, one second, please. Okay, yeah, so I wanted to send out an invitation to, I put this link, I put this link in the comment for on Facebook for Alfonso Speaks on Facebook. And I put this link in here because I wanted people to see what some of the parents know, what some of the teachers and some of the schools are dealing with as it relates to some of their frustrations. And because I have a desire to help myself and help others around the world transform conflict into conscious conversation that leads to understanding, resolution, and enlightenment, I would like to put out an offer for any any parents who have young people in junior high and high school. I am willing to sit with young people and have a talk with them and help them become more self-loving and have more self-respect and become more responsible for themselves and how they interact with other people so we could keep confrontation to a minimum. And I'm not asking anybody for money. I'm just saying if there's anybody out there who is interested in having me sit down with their young people to have a conversation about how we can be better with how we interact, take some personal responsibility, have control over ourselves, then I'm willing to meet up and make it happen. And again, I'm not asking for any money or anything. I really thought that what I had to offer would be great for organizations in Hartford, where I grew up with and lived most of my life. I thought that there would be a willingness to have me share this kind of information, and there clearly hasn't. And I'm not interested in calling anybody out, but I can say um, there has been a resounding silence after the words "I'll get back to you." And all I want to do is talk to young people and try to make them better as it relates to how to interact with one another. And since that approach hasn't worked, if there are any parents who are interested in me having a conversation with their young people about being better, having some self-love, self-respect, self-responsibility, and learn how to have some self-control and be able to communicate better without so much hostility. And I'm willing to do it. You can inbox me on Alphonso Speaks, Facebook, Alphonso Speaks, you can inbox me. And I don't need a whole bunch of people. If it's one person, it's fine with me. I don't have to have a crowd. If it's 10 people, that's fine. But anybody, any parents who are interested in who think that I have something that can contribute, that can help improve how they interact with each other so there's not so much hostility and conflict, and anger and things like that. Just inbox me and let me know. I'm willing to have a conversation. And with young people, and it won't cost. I'm not charging anything. It won't cost anything. I'm just interested in trying to make a contribution to making things better for myself first, and for young people in general. And if you look at this link that I posted, I happened to come across this link today, earlier today, and I said that I would mention it and post it about teachers who say they're fed up with Generation Alpha. I guess that's what they're calling this generation now, Generation Alpha. So check that link out and keep in mind, or keep me in mind, if there's any way you think that I can contribute, or because everybody doesn't necessarily need this, but it can always be used. We always have room to improve, and so I think I have enough wonderful information to contribute to that improvement for those who are interested. So I wanted to put that on the table right out the gate first. I also want to remind you that the Taste of the Caribbean Arts and Culture Connecticut Incorporated presents the Hartford, Connecticut's Taste of the Caribbean Jerk Festival, and that takes place on Saturday, August 1st. I'm also involved in assisting with making that happen as much as possible. So again, to remind you, the Taste of the Caribbean Arts and Culture Connecticut Inc. presents the Hartford, Connecticut's Taste of the Caribbean Jerk Festival. And that'll be on Saturday, August 1st. Try to be there. It's always a great time. This is the 21st year, and it's always a great time. So come on through. And also, the Greater Hartford Festival of Jazz here in Hartford, Connecticut begins this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the 17th, 18th, and 19th of July. This Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the 17th. Well, next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the 17th. No, actually, that is next Friday. That is this Friday. So, yeah, this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the 17th, 18th, and 19th of July. I was also invited to do a poem. It will be a tribute to Black women. It's called For You There Are No Words. I don't do this to exclude other nationalities or other races of women, because I think all women who contribute to bringing forth life in this society in any way, form, or fashion, it doesn't have to be childbirth, but are powerful representatives of maintaining life on this planet. So I think all women are special. I was raised among Black women, and I've watched some really heavy things that Black women have had to go through, and Black women were the inspiration for this poem. So that's why I call it a special tribute to Black women, but it doesn't take away from all women. That will be this Friday, the 17th at 9:45. I am scheduled to share this poetic tribute to Black women at the Greater Hartford Festival of Jazz, Hartford, Connecticut, Again, it's this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the 17th, 18th, and 19th. And I will be presenting on Friday night, the 17th, a special tribute to Black women, a poem called For You There Are No Words. And that will be taking place. I'm scheduled for that to take place at 9:45 p.m., just before the headliner for the evening. So if you can make it out, come on out and show your support. I definitely appreciate it. Now for the Conscious Conversation experience. The Conscious Conversation experience is a collaboration and movement that chooses love and enlightenment. We choose love and enlightenment. We choose love and enlightenment. Now, some of you have heard me speaking and sharing information. And um, last night I was in a conversation, and it was a strange feeling because it was the first time I felt angry in a conversation in a long time. I can't even remember the last time I had that feeling in a conversation. And sometimes these conversations are very tough. So, and I understand that our emotions can sometimes take over. And I became frustrated during the conversation. And I had to smile at myself because it like something like that will happen. Well, when it happened last night, I had to smile and say, okay, man, you got a lot more work to do. And it didn't take long for me to gather myself, but I still felt it and I knew it. And what happened was we were talking about racism. And I was saying I don't think there's any such thing as racism. And during the whole conversation, we were using the terms white people and black people and white people this and black people that. And then when I started making a point that made sense, then he switched and went into, well, the word white is a construct. There are no real white people or black people. There's only one race. And steam shot out of my ears faster than I could think and stop it. And this is something that happens in conversations all the time. You know, you can be having a conversation about something and you can make a point, and you're making the point. For me, I was making the point in the desire to help the brother understand where I was coming from. And so as I began making the point, which is what he did through the whole conversation, he kept trying to anticipate what I was saying and respond to his anticipation of what I was saying rather than hearing me out. And so this particular time, he couldn't really anticipate what I was going to say, because even if he knew what I was going to say, it was a really good point. Because I work really hard because, again, the goal in the conscious conversation is always understanding. So I work really hard to come up with these examples to help people understand where I'm coming from. So when I gave him the example to help him understand what I meant when I said there's no such thing as racism, he switched gears and went into this, oh, the word white is a construct. There's no such thing as race, and black is a construct. We just got through talking about race for the last 30 minutes. And now when I try to make a point and I explain to him, trying to help him understand, he totally switched gears and goes into this construct crap. Now, for me, after I thought about it, I said, when you're in that situation, how is it best to handle it? Well, when he switched the what do you call it, move the goalposts? When people do that, it means they don't want to hear what you have to say. At least that's what I figured out after what happened, because I'm always thinking about it. Okay, what made you frustrated? Why did you get upset? And I said, listen, man, I'm not talking about no construct. We've been using the term black and white all night. Now that I'm making a point and trying to help you understand me, you want to come up with some rules. There ain't no such thing as white or black. So anyway, but for me, when after last night, I've concluded that when somebody does that to me, it means they're not interested in hearing what I have to say. If I'm speaking from a place of understanding and they totally switch the narrative and go to something else, it means they're not interested in what I have to say. And I have to have the wherewithal to back out of the conversation and just keep it moving. Maybe say, how about them Cowboys, or what's your favorite dessert? Um, what's your favorite television show? Just move into something, more cake and candy like. So yeah, I had a hard lesson last night. I learned that and nobody's trying to be perfect, but I'm trying to be the absolute best person I can. And I didn't blame him for making me upset. I took responsibility for making myself upset, for not accepting the fact or accepting the reality that he wasn't interested in what I had to say. Now that's my response. So yeah, so I had a moment last night, learned from it, and it's time to keep it moving. So resolution is the successful solving of a problem, and that's what I'm always looking for. If there is a conflict, I'm always looking and moving towards understanding and resolution. Resolution, the successful solving of a problem. I'm here to help myself and people around the world transform conflict into conscious conversation that leads to understanding, resolution, and life. You say, what is a conscious conversation? A conscious conversation is a verbal interaction where we speak, try to understand. We ask questions and share information. We take responsibility for our thoughts, words, and actions and control our prejudices and emotions. Which, if left unchecked, like mine last night, will disrupt the goal of having a conscious conversation, which I did last night. The strength of a conscious conversation is its ability to inspire rather than manipulate. Ultimately, the conscious conversation experience is a pathway to understanding, resolution, and enlightenment. One of the things I have to always say when I talk about us having a conscious conversation, and that is, I've learned that developing myself can lead to unnecessary challenges with insecure people who are intimidated by those who have a sense of self. It's not our problem, but it is a reality associated with the consequences of our personal growth. And we shouldn't shy away from personal growth because of insecure people. However, we need to be aware that this is a reality. And sometimes, if we are not aware and we continue being in the presence of those kind of people, they can potentially hurt us mentally, physically, spiritually, and a lot of things. So we have to be aware when we're in the presence of insecure people because they show us. They don't make it a secret. They show us every time. And if we act naive and act like we're not aware, we can get ourselves hurt. So always keep that in mind as we continue our path to personal growth, as we continue on our path to personal growth. A part of the challenge is insecure people. And for each new door we open that takes us to another level of understanding, there are going to be fewer and fewer people in the room. You know why? There's people who are not ready who can't go in that room. And if you have a desire to grow, you can't carry them in the room. You got to let them go. So for tonight, thoughts that I'm willing to have a conscious conversation. Tonight's thought that I'm willing to have a conscious conversation about is the fact that my imagination is always available to me. My imagination is always available. Dreams with favorable scenarios and potential realities that all have wonderful outcomes and are always possible. This is what I like to focus on, especially during challenging times. So, if, like all of us, if I have a challenging thought, something that's um, maybe interrupting, because there's so many distractions out here. There are things that they can just be within earshot. You don't even have to be conscious listening, and it will affect how you feel, and it will affect my energy. And I have to be aware of that. So, um, and if I feel that, one of my first go-tos with my imagination is because I see myself speaking in front of hundreds and maybe thousands of people. My first go-to is always this camera shot. Right? Somebody is standing behind me as I'm speaking to a crowd, and they take this picture, and the pictures of me facing the crowd, and the camera, just this big crowd is sitting in front of me, listening to what I have to say. That's my go-to shot. Anytime I get upset or feel myself being a little adversely affected by a certain situation, that's my go-to shot. And that's what keeps me excited. It changes my energy to where I would like it to be. And it works for me. But not just when it comes to that. My imagination is always available to me, even if I'm a writer. We don't always have to write about how tough our upbringing was because everybody has a tough upbringing, and that's cool. We don't have to always do poetry about the struggle against the system. There's so much about life available to us. Our imagination is so freaking incredible. And we live in a reality that has conditioned us to suppress our imagination so that there are certain narratives that we continue to focus on. This race stuff is such an illusion. Life is so much bigger than race. Life is bigger than white people. Life is bigger than black people, any individual nationality. Life is huge. You know, for instance, when we stay so focused on race, it's like walking through the forest and scraping against some poison ivy, and you get a rash, and then you invest in some lights and light up the poison ivy, and then spend the rest of your life saying, see what the poison ivy did? See, it got you too, right? See what the poison ivy did. And I'm saying, well, what about the rest of the forest? Like, there's so much beauty here. There's some things here that can hurt us. There's some realities here that are unfavorable. There are some realities here that are unfair. But life is not fair. The forest is not fair. Life is dangerous. The forest is dangerous. And one aspect of life doesn't equal the entire existence of life. One aspect of the forest doesn't equal the entire existence of the forest. And as long as we just keep focusing on the forest, we're missing out on the forest, man. Life is huge. And for whatever the reason, I really don't know why, but right now the heat has been turned up to a intensity recently that's pretty incredible when it comes to this so-called race baiting and race-based distractions. And we are investing our emotions in it without hesitation, without thought, without even awareness of the fact that we just keep doing it over and over and over. This race thing is a distraction. I'm trying to tell you. And to be quite honest, anything that we don't have control over can be nothing more than a distraction to us. And there are so many things out here that we have no control over. I would venture to say all of these politicians and entertainers, and if you notice, they only come to see us, or as some people say, they only come outside when they've been instructed to. And if you also notice, when they are instructed to come outside, at the very foundation of what they're saying and represent is division. They come outside to increase division and conflict and confrontation. And we think they're a big deal because they have a lot of money. The question is, if you have so much money, why are you still working? Why do you still only come outside when you're instructed? And why do you still only come outside when you're instructed to? Why is it to be in the middle of creating division? It's our responsibility to recognize this. There's a person who recently came outside, and his only objective was to create a bunch of division. And he was able to do it so fast. He has succeeded in creating division among us so fast. We have no idea that's what's happening. But trust me when I tell you, we only see him and his counterpart and all his buddies when they have been given instructions to come outside and create division among us. That's my observation. I'm not saying I'm the most correct. I'm just saying that is my observation because I don't see what else they're doing. And if they have so much money, why are they still working? Every time they're called on, they come out here and go to work for division. And because we have no emotional control, what some people call emotional intelligence, we just buy into it so easily. We're distracted so easily. And everybody knows that's one of the greatest ways to take us off of our path is to inject some conflict based on race or inject conflict where we're at each other's throat. No imagination whatsoever. It's just the same old routine every time. They don't even have to change up the plan. They just use the same plan over and over again. And we buy into it every single time. Now, I'm gonna tell you something interesting. This is only according to me. This is not necessarily the truth, but I think it's interesting. For example, when we compare ourselves, when we say, "Oh, who's better, LeBron or Jordan?" Do you know why we default to LeBron and Jordan? Because we're the best, period. Nobody else enters the conversation. But there's this phenomena that we have when we involve ourselves in something and we become the best at it. Rather than simply recognizing that we are the best, we have to create an adversarial conversation where now we have to compare ourselves to each other without understanding the reason why we're doing that because there's no other competition. But then we digress and go into this competition with each other thing because we have to create a way to divide ourselves from each other. So for me, I have recognized this goings on, and I have retired from engaging in comparisons where we are going at each other's throat about who's the greatest among us. Who cares? Especially when the conversation is escalating to conflict and confrontation and arguments and negative stuff. So our imagination is always available to us. My imagination is always available to me, and I go to it anytime that I'm experiencing some challenging moments. I go to my imagination to go to work because it's much better than going into thinking about sad stuff. Like if somebody asked me, what would you rather be, feeling good or feeling bad? I would always say feeling good. So why would I torture myself with bad feelings when I have an imagination that I can imagine wonderful things taking place? And like I said, dreams with favorable scenarios and potential realities that all have wonderful outcomes and are always possible. That's what I like to focus on. Because the only thing I have is right. The only thing I have is right now. And so I have to use my imagination. I have to use my imagination. I have to use my imagination. My former piano teacher passed away recently, and he taught me a lot about music. And recently I would go see him and I would cut his hair and we talk about life and music. And the last time I was with him, he's 94. The last time I was with him, I was playing music, on my phone of these certain people. Like I play Errol Garner, pianist, and he would say, "Yeah, that's Errol Garner." He'd give me the history, and he knew their first, middle, and last name. And I would play Charlie Parker. Yeah, that's Charlie Parker right there, Charlie, and he gave me a history, and it was just amazing. He's 94, and he's just giving me full history on all of these people. Play some Oscar Peterson. Yeah, that's Oscar. He gave me a history on Oscar and Miles Davis and on and on and on. And one of his favorites was Fats Domino. He really dug him some Fats Domino. And he loved this song called The A Train. I think I played about three different versions of The A Train. And he was going to tell me each one of them. And it was the same thing with singers. I play different singers. You tell me who it is. And, um, and then when I was talking to him and I'm playing the music, there's certain music, he just starts smiling. You And he started bopping his head to it. He just started smiling. 'Cause, Uh, maybe it was memories. I don't know. A lot of these people he also interacted with personally. So he told me about Malcolm X. He told me about the guy who was with Malcolm X. I think they called him Shorty or something. And he was saying he was a good musician. He was a decent musician. And he just opened me up. I was never really into jazz until I started taking piano lessons. He started educating me on all of these different artists in jazz. And so that's how I became to be one who could appreciate jazz and Dizzy Gillespie, Cab Calloway. He recognized all of them. So the last time I was with him, as I was leaving, I said, "Hey, Doc, I'm about to go," and I seen it. I was leaving. He said, "Hey," and I said, "Well, what's up, Doc?" He said, again, he's 94. He said, "If I had known I was going to live this long, I would have took better care of myself." And wow. I said, "All right, Doc." And that's just something that'll never go away from me. I'll always remember that. And I keep that on my mind every day when I think about the kind of food I'm eating, how I take care of myself. And that was the intentional message. And I believe it was for me to do better. Like I said, he recently passed away. But Doc, he taught me a lot about life while I was learning how to play the piano. We have to not take our imagination for granted because it's there for us to remove us from thoughts that take us in dark spaces. Our imagination is incredible. And it is our imagination that created everything we see before us. It came from somebody's imagination. If it wasn't trees, ecology, nature, everything else we see. And I'm not saying that didn't come from somebody's imagination, but as far as a human standpoint, everything we see outside of nature is byproducts of somebody's imagination. And we have to keep that in mind and know that our imagination is always available to us in those dark moments. The same way we're thinking about dark things, we can use our imagination to think about wonderful things. It's up to us. The power is in our hands. And so, in what ways do I make decisions that hurt me? Tonight's answer to that question is, do I compare myself to others in any way? If I compare myself to others in any way, then I'm setting myself up to be miserable. We have to be comfortable in our own skin and in our own situations. Because no matter who we look at, and no matter how wonderful they appear to be doing, as humans, they're having challenges as well. And you may not want to have to deal with the challenges they're having that you don't see. And just like there may be some challenges you'll have that they don't see. But you never want to look at somebody from the outside and just wish you had their life or compare yourself to them. Or like they always present us doing in all of these commercials again, this slow grind conditioning. You know, one guy is watering his lawn and he's looking over at the other guy, and the other guy's grass is greener, so he goes and gets this special stuff to make his grass green. And the next time we look at the commercial, his grass is just as green, if not greener, than the neighbor's grass. And this goes on and on with the cars, the houses, these commercials where we're looking at other people and comparing ourselves to them. It's a guarantee for a miserable life. If you're doing that, get out of that. It's a guarantee for a miserable life. Making somebody else's standards ours. So that is a decision that would hurt me if I found myself comparing myself to others in any way. Just a reminder, the Taste of the Caribbean Arts and Culture Connecticut Inc. presents Hartford, Connecticut's Taste of the Caribbean Jerk Festival, Saturday, August 1st, 2020, right? Saturday, August 1st, 2026. One second. Um, yep. So Saturday, August 1st, 2026, the Taste of the Caribbean Jerk Festival, and at Riverfront Plaza, Riverfront Plaza, and come hang out, Riverfront Plaza, August 1st, 2026, and also this week, starting on Friday evening, the Greater Hartford Festival of Jazz, Hartford, Connecticut, this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 17th, 18th, and 19th of July. You want to come check that out too. I was invited to do a poem. It will be a tribute to Black women. It's called For You There Are No Words. I think all women are special. And this poem is written as a tribute to Black women because of what I've seen and experienced them and what they have had to go through in this existence. So I remember this tribute, especially for Black women. But it's not to me that it's about being against any other women, any other culture. It's just a tribute for Black women. 'Cause that's what I've witnessed and experienced and grew up with. So this Friday, I will be presenting that poem at 9:45 p.m. just before the headline. So if you in the mood for some jazz and you hanging out Friday night and you just happen to be at the jazz festival, check your clock and remember I'm supposed to come home before the headliner, which is at 10 o'clock. And I'm going to do this poem at 9:45. So, and also, just as a reminder, I've given up trying to link up with organizations in the greater Hartford area. Um, I'll get back to you is what I've been hearing, and I've heard nothing but silence. So at this point, I think I have something to offer and something that I could think help. If you have a desire for me to talk to any young people who are aware of high school, junior high school students, and you know, share this wonderful information I have that's based on the book I wrote called The Roots of Retreat, a Genesis of a Conscious Conversation. I also wrote a book called When Young People Speak, 100 Questions for Ages 13 to 30, where it's just a list of 100 questions that we can use to generate conversations to find out what's on their minds. Something many of us don't do, but it's a book that helps instigate or start good conversations with young people. So if anybody would be interested in me sharing some information with some young people, let me know. I'm not asking you for any money. I'm just interested in being able to share what I think is some good stuff. You could be doing anything right now in this very moment, and you chose to give me some time in your life. I don't take it for granted. I love you all, and I always will. And I will never give up on our people, ever. Have a good night.